Fear. It's the invisible current that runs beneath so many of our choices, the hesitation before we speak our truth, the doubt that whispers before we act, the tension that lives quietly in the body, shaping the life we dare not live. We often mistake it for caution or logic, but fear has a more subtle grip. It's the quiet architect of smallness, building walls around what's possible, disguising them as safety. And the tragedy is, most people never notice they've mistaken their cage for comfort. We were not born afraid. Fear is learned. From childhood moments when love felt conditional, from failure that was punished instead of understood, from voices that taught us to shrink to stay accepted. Over time, fear became familiar, and the familiar feels safe, even when it's suffocating. We begin to live reactively, making choices not from truth but from protection. We adapt to survive, but forget to live. To break the habit of fear, we must first see it for what it is, a pattern, not a personality. Fear thrives on repetition. It conditions the mind to expect danger even where none exists. Each time we obey it, it grows stronger. Each time we observe it without reacting, it weakens. The work, then, is not to fight fear, but to stop feeding it. To awaken a deeper awareness that notices the pattern without merging with it. This journey isn't about becoming fearless. It's about becoming free. Free to feel fear without obeying it. Free to act even when the trembling begins. Free to exist from a deeper truth than emotion or memory. Fear will still arise, but its voice will lose authority, like thunder without rain. And in that freedom, something miraculous happens. Fear no longer drives you. It becomes your teacher, showing you where you've hidden your power, where you've stopped trusting life, and where you are finally ready to awaken. Chapter 1. The Architecture of Fear. How the Mind Builds Its Prison. Fear does not appear suddenly. It is constructed, piece by piece, by the mind. Every wall of anxiety, every ceiling of limitation, every locked door of hesitation has been built over time from thoughts, experiences, and interpretations. The human mind is a master architect, and its favorite blueprint is survival. Long before we sought joy or freedom, we sought safety. That instinct once protected us from real danger, but in the modern world, the same mechanism now protects us from imagined threats, rejection, judgment, failure, or loss. We're no longer running from predators, we're running from possibilities. The architecture of fear begins with a single thought of danger, often subtle and fleeting. What if I fail? What if they leave? What if I'm not enough? The body responds instantly, tightening the chest, quickening the breath, alerting every nerve. The mind then interprets this physical sensation as proof of the fear's truth, creating a feedback loop that deepens with every repetition. Over time, these thoughts and sensations form walls so familiar that we stop seeing them. We call it personality. We call it being careful. But really, it's fear disguised as logic, comfort, or control. The deeper tragedy is that fear doesn't just stop us from acting, it reshapes our identity. The more we live within its structure, the more we begin to believe, this is who I am. We identify with our limits, mistaking protection for peace. Our imagination, once the tool of creation, becomes the servant of avoidance. The mind, meant to be a bridge between spirit and reality, becomes a prison guard, defending the very walls that keep us small. But the architecture of fear can be seen, and once seen, it can be dismantled. Every fear-based thought loses its authority the moment we observe it without judgment. Awareness shines like sunlight through the cracks of an old structure. When you begin to notice your fears, not as facts, but as learned reactions, something profound happens. The prison starts to crumble. The walls of I can't reveal doors of what if I could. The ceilings of doubt lift into open skies of possibility. Freedom doesn't come from fighting fear, but from seeing it clearly. When you understand how the mind builds its prisons, you gain the power to design something new, an inner architecture made not of protection, but of trust. Fear may still visit, but it will no longer find a home. The key is, and has always been, awareness, the blueprint of liberation. Chapter 2. The Conditioning of Survival. Why fear feels so natural. Fear feels so natural because, in many ways, it is. It is the oldest program running in the human system, older than ambition, older than love, older even than the idea of self. Our ancestors survived by responding to threats faster than they could think. When danger approached, there was no time for reflection. Instinct had to take over. This ancient survival mechanism was perfect for a world filled with physical predators and harsh environments. But in the modern world, those same instincts often misfire, interpreting emotional discomfort, uncertainty, or change as mortal danger. The body still prepares for battle, even when the battlefield is only in the mind. The conditioning of survival begins the moment we experience pain. The mind learns, "This hurts, avoid it." Over years, this becomes a reflex not only to physical pain, but to emotional or psychological discomfort. We begin to associate fear with safety, as if worrying could somehow prevent what we fear most. This is why fear can feel like a form of protection. It whispers, "If you stay small, you'll stay safe." And because the feeling of fear is familiar, it becomes strangely comforting. We start mistaking tension for control and anxiety for awareness. Thus, the survival system becomes overactive, keeping us alive, but not truly living. From childhood, society reinforces this conditioning. We're taught to please authority, avoid mistakes, and fear rejection. We learn that failure means shame, that difference means danger, that silence means safety. Every time we're punished for being bold or expressing truth, the nervous system remembers. It learns that security lies in conformity. Over time, we build our entire identity around what keeps us safe, even if it also keeps us small. This is how fear becomes second nature, not because it's true, but because it's practiced. The paradox is that while survival fear keeps us alive, it also prevents transformation. The part of us that fears pain doesn't understand that growth itself requires discomfort. To evolve is to step into uncertainty, to face the unknown, exactly what fear resists. This is why people often stay in unfulfilling jobs, relationships, or identities. The mind says, "At least I know this pain." The unknown feels riskier than the known suffering. Yet beyond that discomfort lies freedom, creativity, and a deeper connection to life. Recognizing the conditioning of survival is the first step toward transcending it. When you catch yourself reacting from fear, pause and ask, "Is this about real danger or imagined loss?" This moment of awareness interrupts the pattern and reprograms the system. Gradually, you retrain your body to feel safe even in uncertainty. And in that safety, something new awakens. Courage, the natural state beneath all fear. For courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to live beyond it. Chapter 3. Emotional Echoes, the memories that still control you. Fear doesn't only live in the mind, it lives in memory. Every unhealed experience leaves behind an emotional echo, a vibration that quietly shapes how we see the world. These echoes are not just recollections, they are living imprints of energy that continue to influence thought, emotion, and behavior long after the event has passed. The body remembers what the mind tries to forget. When someone raises their voice, when uncertainty looms, when love feels too close, the nervous system replays the old scene, whispering, "This has happened before." It is not the present you are reacting to, it is the past, still echoing through you. These emotional echoes often disguise themselves as personality traits. What we call shyness may be a memory of being ridiculed. What we call independence may be a response to early betrayal. The echoes of pain become our emotional reflexes, unconscious responses that dictate how we engage with life. They create filters that distort the present, turning neutral situations into threats. That's why two people can experience the same event but feel it differently. One feels free, the other feels trapped. Not because of what's happening, but because of what's still unresolved within them. When emotional memories remain unprocessed, the body continues to send danger signals long after the danger is gone. This creates chronic anxiety, hypervigilance, or emotional numbness, all attempts to protect ourselves from repeating old pain. Yet, ironically, what we resist, we recreate. The universe mirrors our inner vibration, and unresolved emotions act as magnets, attracting similar experiences until they are acknowledged. You might find yourself reliving patterns, the same kind of heartbreak, the same financial struggle, the same inner war, because life keeps presenting the lesson until you reclaim your power from it. Healing begins with awareness, not by erasing the past, but by changing your relationship with it. Each emotional echo holds wisdom. Instead of resisting the pain, you allow it to speak. You ask, "What are you trying to show me?" Beneath every fear lies a truth once suppressed, a cry for love, belonging, or safety. When that truth is felt fully, the energy completes its cycle. The echo fades, and in its place, you regain presence, the ability to meet life as it is, not as it was. True freedom is not forgetting your past, but no longer being ruled by it. When you heal the emotional echoes, your reactions soften, your body relaxes, and your perception expands. You no longer live from the residue of yesterday, but from the awareness of now. The mind stops replaying old stories, and the heart opens to new possibilities. It's in this spaciousness that fear loses its anchor, and love, clarity, and courage take its place. Chapter 4. Fear's Disguise: Control, Avoidance, and Perfectionism. Fear rarely presents itself honestly. It doesn't always appear as panic or trembling hands. Sometimes it wears polished masks that even look admirable. Control, avoidance, and perfectionism are three of its favorite disguises. They trick the mind into believing it's safe, when in truth they keep the heart imprisoned. Each of these habits is a strategy, a survival mechanism built to shield us from uncertainty, rejection, and pain. Yet the more we cling to them, the smaller our world becomes, and the further we drift from inner peace. Control is fear pretending to be power. It's the mind's attempt to manage life by tightening its grip. We plan excessively, overthink every decision, and try to predict outcomes, all to avoid the discomfort of the unknown. But life cannot be tamed. The tighter we hold, the more it slips through our fingers. True power is not control, it's presence. The paradox is that control gives the illusion of safety while creating inner exhaustion. It drains the spirit because it's rooted in distrust of life, of others, and of ourselves. Avoidance, on the other hand, is fear pretending to be peace. We convince ourselves that staying away from discomfort is wisdom. We distract, delay, or disengage whenever something feels uncertain or emotionally intense. But avoidance doesn't eliminate fear, it feeds it. Every time we avoid, the mind learns that the threat is real, and the fear grows stronger. Growth demands exposure. Healing requires facing what we've long run from. The moment we turn toward the discomfort, we realize it was never as dangerous as the mind made it seem. Avoidance protects the ego, not the soul. Perfectionism is perhaps the most deceptive of all. Fear pretending to be excellence. It whispers, "Once I get it perfect, I'll be enough. I'll be safe." But perfection is a moving target, a mirage that keeps us chasing worthiness. It breeds anxiety, self-criticism, and paralysis. True excellence doesn't come from fear of failure, it flows from love for creation. When we shift from proving to expressing, our actions become lighter, more authentic, more impactful. The need for flawlessness fades, replaced by a deeper peace in simply being real. The deeper truth is that fear doesn't want control, avoidance, or perfection. It wants acknowledgement. It wants to be seen and soothed, not managed or masked. When we meet our fear with awareness instead of resistance, it begins to dissolve. Life opens up, our choices expand, and we start to move from a place of freedom rather than defense. The moment we stop disguising fear is the moment we begin transforming it into trust, into creativity, into quiet courage. That is the true beginning of liberation. Chapter 5. Awareness interrupts the pattern. Fear thrives in the shadows, in the unconscious corners of the mind where automatic reactions take root. It loops through thought and emotion like a song on repeat, playing the same melody of worry, doubt, and protection. The only thing that can stop it is awareness. Awareness is the light that exposes the pattern the moment the mind sees itself clearly. It doesn't fight fear, it observes it. It doesn't suppress emotion, it understands it. And that understanding, simple as it sounds, changes everything. Every fear pattern has a rhythm, a familiar chain of sensations, thoughts, and reactions. Something triggers discomfort, the body tenses, the mind creates a story, and the nervous system prepares to defend. Most people live trapped inside this loop without ever realizing it's happening. But when awareness steps in, when you pause, breathe, and witness the process, you interrupt the cycle. You move from being in the fear to watching it. In that shift, the fear begins to lose its grip, because it no longer has your full identification. Awareness doesn't demand instant change. It invites gentle observation. When fear arises, instead of asking, "How do I get rid of this?" ask, "What is this teaching me?" Notice where you feel it in your body. Notice the thoughts that accompany it. Notice the urge to run, control, or hide. This act of noticing is not passive. It's the deepest form of empowerment. For the first time, you're no longer reacting blindly. You're consciously engaging with your own inner landscape. That presence itself begins to dissolve the fear's power. What awareness reveals, it heals. Because fear cannot survive in clarity, it needs confusion, identification, and resistance. The moment you see your fear as an energy passing through you, not as a truth about you, its authority collapses. You recognize that you are not the anxious thought, you are the awareness behind it. This realization doesn't erase fear overnight, but it transforms your relationship with it. Fear becomes a signal rather than a sentence, an invitation to come back home to yourself. The more you practice awareness, the faster you interrupt the pattern. Over time, the old reactions lose their charge. You stop spiraling into panic, self-doubt, or avoidance. Instead, you meet each wave of fear with a calm, witnessing presence. That is the beginning of mastery, when the mind no longer runs you, but you begin to guide the mind. Awareness becomes your freedom key, the silent observer within that breaks every chain fear ever forged. Chapter 6. The Courage to Feel. Meeting fear without running. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the willingness to face it. True transformation begins not when fear disappears, but when you stop running from it. Most people spend their lives constructing walls of distraction, denial, or control to avoid uncomfortable emotions. Yet every time you turn away, fear grows stronger in the shadows. The paradox is that liberation lies not in escaping fear, but in feeling it fully. To meet fear with open awareness is to reclaim your power, to step back into the center of your own being, where fear loses its authority. When fear arises, the instinct is to tense, resist, or push it away. But in that very resistance, fear multiplies. The act of suppression tells the nervous system that the emotion is dangerous, reinforcing the cycle. The path of courage, however, reverses this pattern. It says, "Let me feel this." To allow fear to exist in your body without judgment or story is to show your mind that you are safe, even in discomfort. As you breathe through it, not think your way out of it, You teach your system that feeling is not fatal. This is where emotional alchemy happens. When you allow fear to move through you instead of trapping it with resistance, it transforms. The tightness in your chest softens. The tremble in your hands steadies. The energy that once paralyzed you becomes available as strength, clarity, and intuition. The same energy that once terrified you now begins to fuel your growth. Because you've stopped labeling it as bad, you've met it as life energy in motion, and in that meeting, it dissolves. Fear loses its power when it is felt consciously. It no longer defines who you are because you've proven to yourself that you can hold it without being consumed by it. Each time you face fear with awareness and compassion, your inner space expands. What once felt unbearable now becomes manageable. What once controlled you now serves as a teacher. You begin to see that fear was never an enemy, only a messenger pointing you back to your own strength. To meet fear without running is the essence of courage. It's standing in the storm and realizing you are the sky, vast, open, and untouched by the passing clouds. This is the moment you begin to trust life again, not because it's always safe, but because you know you are strong enough to meet it all. Courage is the quiet act of staying present when everything in you wants to flee. It's the ultimate declaration of freedom. I am not my fear. I am the space that holds it. Chapter 7. Reprogramming the Nervous System for Safety. Fear does not only live in your thoughts, it is etched into the very fabric of your nervous system. Every memory of threat, every emotional wound, and every moment of helplessness becomes recorded in your body's internal wiring. Your nervous system learns what to fear and how to react through repetition, not logic. This is why affirmations or positive thinking alone often fail to dissolve deep fear patterns. The body does not speak the language of words. It speaks the language of safety and sensation. To truly transcend fear, you must teach your body that it is safe again. When the body feels unsafe, even neutral experiences are filtered through the lens of survival. A simple mistake feels catastrophic. A new opportunity feels dangerous. Your system prepares for attack even when none exists. This hypervigilance drains your energy and limits your ability to grow. The key is to create a new association, to show your nervous system that presence does not equal danger. Through breath, grounding, and gentle awareness, you begin to rewire the body's instinctive response from panic to peace. One of the most powerful tools for this transformation is conscious regulation. Simple, repeated acts of self-reassurance. Slow breathing, feeling your feet on the ground, softening your shoulders, and noticing your environment are not small things. They are signals to your nervous system that life is safe right now. Over time, these small, consistent acts rebuild internal trust. The body learns that it can experience intensity without shutting down. Safety becomes not an external condition, but an internal state that you can summon at will. Reprogramming the nervous system also involves compassion. The parts of you that overreact, freeze, or retreat are not weak. They are ancient protectors doing their best to keep you alive. Instead of battling them, speak to them with gentleness. It's okay, you're safe now. This internal dialogue bridges the gap between the wounded self and the conscious self. It allows integration, not suppression. In this union, fear loses its rigidity because it's finally being understood. As the body begins to trust your awareness, something profound happens. Fear transforms into sensitivity, vigilance becomes intuition, and tension becomes readiness for life. The same nervous system that once limited you now becomes your ally. You realize that safety was never about controlling the world. It was about restoring peace within yourself. The moment your body learns that safety lives inside you, freedom is no longer an idea. It becomes your natural state of being. Chapter 8. Choosing Faith Over Forecast. The human mind loves prediction. It seeks safety in knowing what comes next, in rehearsing possibilities, calculating risks, and forecasting the future. Yet the more it tries to predict, the more it fuels fear, because the mind, in its limited view, cannot control life's vast and unpredictable nature. Fear thrives on this illusion of control. It whispers that if you can just think far enough ahead, you'll be safe. But true safety is never found in certainty. It's found in trust. Faith begins where forecasting ends. Faith is not denial of reality. It is the choice to see beyond appearances. It is the awareness that something larger, wiser, and infinitely intelligent is orchestrating your path, even when logic cannot make sense of it. Faith does not promise comfort. It promises alignment. It teaches you to walk through uncertainty with open eyes and a steady heart. To choose faith over forecast is to stop living from fear's projections and start living from your inner knowing. A deep confidence that what unfolds is ultimately for your highest evolution. When you rely on forecasting, your mind searches for evidence before it believes. But when you rely on faith, your belief becomes the evidence. You stop waiting for conditions to be perfect before you move. You act in alignment, even when you cannot see the full picture. Faith transforms, "What if it goes wrong?" into, "What if it goes right?" It bridges the gap between the invisible and the visible, between who you are now and who you are becoming. It turns fear's obsession with outcomes into the soul's devotion to the present moment. To cultivate faith, you must practice surrender, not as defeat, but as cooperation with life. Let go of the mental grip that demands guarantees. Replace anxious anticipation with curious observation. Breathe into the unknown and remind yourself, the same force that breathes me is guiding me. With each breath, you reaffirm that you are supported by something greater than the mind's calculations. This surrender is not weakness, it's wisdom. It allows life to surprise you, expand you, and move you beyond your perceived limits. Choosing faith over forecast does not mean you never plan or prepare. It means you plan with intention, but release attachment to outcomes. You walk forward with confidence, not because you know what will happen, but because you trust yourself to handle whatever does. Faith reclaims your energy from anxiety and redirects it toward creation. In faith, fear dissolves, not because the path becomes clear, but because you no longer need it to be. And that is where real freedom begins, not in knowing the future, but in trusting the moment you are in. Chapter 9. Living Beyond Reaction. The Calm Power of Presence. Every moment offers a choice, to react from old patterns or to respond from presence. Most people spend their lives in reaction, unconsciously replaying emotional programs written long ago. A sound, a tone, a memory, or even a glance can trigger past wounds, and before awareness intervenes, the body tenses, the breath shortens, and fear takes the wheel. Reaction is the language of survival. Presence is the language of mastery. To live beyond reaction is to reclaim the power that fear once controlled, the power to choose your state, no matter the storm around you. Presence begins with observation. It's the sacred pause between stimulus and response, a space so small it's often missed, yet within it lies your freedom. When you catch yourself before reacting, you shift from being a prisoner of emotion to the witness of it. The mind may still judge, the body may still tremble, but awareness stands untouched. This awareness is not passive, it's deeply alive. It allows you to meet life consciously instead of automatically. Presence doesn't suppress emotion. It simply holds it, allowing energy to pass through without controlling your behavior. Living beyond reaction doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you start seeing. You begin to recognize that anger, fear, or anxiety are not enemies, but signals. They are indicators of where attention and healing are needed. When you stay present, you no longer amplify them with stories or resistance. You let the wave rise and fall naturally, and what remains after it passes is wisdom. The ego feeds on reactivity, it thrives on drama and defense, but presence dissolves ego's grip. It turns conflict into clarity, chaos into understanding, and fear into awareness. To strengthen presence, practice slowing down. Breathe before you speak. Observe before you act. Listen before you assume. This isn't weakness, it's mastery. The world teaches speed, but the soul teaches stillness. Every pause becomes a portal, a way back to yourself. Over time, you'll notice that what once triggered you no longer shakes you. You'll meet challenges with grounded calm, not because life has softened, but because you have strengthened. Presence becomes your protection, not a wall, but a luminous field of awareness that nothing reactive can penetrate. When you live beyond reaction, you begin to radiate a different energy, steady, composed, and magnetic. People sense it. Chaos yields to it. You stop chasing peace and start emanating it. The calm power of presence is not loud or forceful. It's quiet, yet undeniable. It is the state of a soul fully awake, deeply rooted in the now. And from that center, no fear, no person, and no situation has the power to pull you out of alignment ever again. Chapter 10. Freedom. When fear becomes your teacher. Freedom does not come from escaping fear. It comes from transforming your relationship with it. Most people spend their lives running from fear, avoiding discomfort, and building elaborate strategies to feel safe. But true freedom begins when you stop running and turn toward the very thing you've been avoiding. When you look fear in the eyes, not to fight it, but to understand it, something profound happens. Fear changes shape. It's no longer a threat, but a guide, a teacher showing you where you've yet to grow, where love has not yet been allowed to enter. Every fear you hold points to an unhealed part of your story, a belief, a wound, a memory that still whispers, "I am not safe." But the truth is, fear is not the enemy of freedom. It's the doorway to it. When you move through fear consciously, you reclaim lost fragments of your power. You discover that courage was never the absence of fear, but the willingness to feel it and move forward anyway. Each time you walk through what you once avoided, you dissolve another illusion of limitation. And on the other side of that trembling comes expansion, the quiet knowing that you are always more powerful than the fear itself. Fear is also an invitation, an opportunity to deepen trust. It asks you, can you surrender control and still believe in your safety? Can you stand in uncertainty and still feel guided? When you stop trying to fix fear and instead listen to it, it reveals its wisdom. It shows you what truly matters, what you care about, and where your next evolution lies. Fear sharpens awareness. It humbles the ego. It reminds you that growth is not found in comfort, but in courage. The moment you stop labeling fear as bad, it loses its poison and becomes medicine. As you learn from fear, it becomes less frequent, less sharp, not because life becomes easier, but because your perception changes. You no longer see fear as a barrier. You see it as feedback from the soul. You start to thank it, because every time it visits, it's refining your awareness, polishing your strength, and deepening your faith. You no longer resist the lessons. You welcome them. That is the birth of real freedom, not the absence of challenge, but the absence of inner bondage. You finally realize that fear was never trying to hold you back. It was trying to wake you up. And in that awakening, fear bows and becomes your ally. It no longer dictates your path. It illuminates it. You walk through life with an open heart and a steady gaze, no longer hiding behind armor, but radiating presence. You are free, not because the world has changed, but because you have. Freedom, then, is not found in escaping fear, but in embracing it so fully that it transforms into wisdom. Fear is no longer something you avoid, it's something you've outgrown. And that is the ultimate liberation, when fear becomes your teacher and your soul becomes the master. Conclusion. The end of fear, the beginning of freedom. Every great transformation begins not with the absence of fear, but with the courage to meet it. The journey you've just walked through, from understanding fear's architecture to transforming it into wisdom, is not a path of resistance, but of remembrance. You are remembering who you were before fear taught you to shrink. You are returning to the self that existed before the world convinced you to doubt your own light. Fear is not your enemy, it is your mirror. It reflects every place within you where love has not yet been allowed to live. When you start seeing fear this way, not as punishment, but as guidance, you begin to live differently. You stop hiding. You stop waiting. You stop allowing fear to narrate the story of your potential. Instead, you begin to write from courage, to speak from truth, and to walk from faith. True freedom doesn't mean the disappearance of fear. It means that fear no longer decides for you. It may whisper, but it no longer rules. You become the calm in the storm, the light within the darkness, the consciousness that observes without being controlled. And from that place, everything changes. Your relationships deepen, your dreams expand, and your energy radiates trust instead of tension. So the next time fear arises, don't push it away. Breathe. Listen. Ask what it's trying to teach you, because beneath every tremor lies a truth that is waiting to set you free. This is the mastery of self, not conquering fear, but transforming it into clarity, courage, and conscious choice. When fear becomes your teacher, life stops being something you survive and becomes something you awaken to. You are not here to run from fear. You are here to evolve through it. If this message resonated with you, it means your journey toward freedom has already begun. Take a moment to subscribe to Summary Shelf, where we explore the inner landscapes of growth, awareness, and transformation. Every video here is designed to awaken a deeper part of you, the part that remembers your power and your peace. If you found value in this message, like this video to let YouTube know it inspired you. Share it with someone who may be walking through fear right now. They might need this reminder more than you know. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment of reflection, healing, and awakening.
Your journey to becoming fearless begins not with the next video, but with the next breath. You are stronger than your fear. You are already free. Stay awake, stay aware, and keep evolving here on Summary Shelf.